When your sex drive disappears, it's not a flaw. You're not broken. It's a flare. It's your body's best way of taking care of yourself. So let's get into it.
Somewhere, breathe in some love. Let yourself unfold. Breathe in some love.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. I have lost track, really honestly, of how many weeks have passed by. Um, I miss doing this. I miss being here for my weekly live stream on Wednesdays. I miss talking to you all. Um, I had to take care of some life things, and so no regrets about that. But I am also extremely grateful to be back home and in somewhat of a routine. Tonight's episode is entitled Why You Don't Want Sex. The answer might surprise you. I hope the answer doesn't surprise you, really. I hope not. I think probably if you are a fan or follower of mine, you might have some inclination about where I'm going with tonight's conversation. Excuse me. But if not, join me for the ride. I am Dr. Nikki. I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm a pleasure coach, and my private practice is Dr. Nikki Knows. I'm based here in Houston, Texas, but my practice is fully virtual. I am accepting new clients, and I am a licensed therapist and psychologist. I'm not necessarily your licensed therapist and psychologist. So take what resonates from today, be curious about it, follow up, and leave the rest. Okay. I wanted to talk specifically about um, this experience of disconnection from desire, disconnection from pleasure, difficulty with accessing your own sense of arousal because I've been struggling. Really, I've been struggling. And I know that this is a common experience that a lot of women have. And I think this content today pulls in, or I should say, subject pulls in a couple different pieces of content. So I hope to maybe leave you with more curiosity than specific answers. Right? That's always my goal. I always assume, even with my clients, that you are the best expert on you, and you can find the solutions, the pathway forward, the ways of being that make the most sense for you and your life way better than I ever could. Right? And so I think about my responsibility as a therapist, as a psychologist, is to help you ask yourself better questions. And that's why I sort of set the title for tonight's episode as Why You Don't Want to Have Sex. I think, no, I shouldn't say that. Far more common of what I see in my practice is that when women come to work with me and they have either desire discrepancy or they have low libido. When we talk about desire, we're talking about libido. Sometimes people use the word sex drive. I don't really like that term or framework because one, it assumes that so a drive is like an inherent need that everyone has, and it assumes that there's like some baseline, like it's sort of a black or white issue. So you will hardly ever hear me use the word sex drive personally, but that's what I'm talking about when I talk about desire, right? The want to have sex. I see a lot of clients who have either desire discrepancy, so theirs is higher or lower than their partners, or they don't have access to their desire at all. Um, or they might have intermittent access to their desire, but it doesn't always align with their sense of arousal. And I want to normalize that for us. I want to really bring home the message that who we are as sexual beings is in dynamic relationship to who we are as whole beings and individuals. That there's not some like set point that we reach, and this is what our sexuality looks like for the rest of our life. This is what our desire looks like for the rest of our life. Oh, if it were that simple, but it's not. And I wanted to talk specifically around erotic disconnection because I do think that there's a lot of shame attached to that. So when clients come to me, there is a sense oftentimes that they're broken, that something is wrong with them. A lot of times, if they are in heterosexual partnerships where the husband wants more sex than they do, or more um, freaky or kiki, more creative sex than they do, that they can end up feeling like the villain, right? Like something is wrong with them, that they're the problem. And I want us to really, one, take away that judgment and evaluation, and two, I really want to normalize all the different ways that we could be experiencing erotic disconnection. And like I said, this is something that I've been struggling with recently, a good bit now, honestly. And I wanted to just be transparent about that. So when I am thinking about disconnection, I want you to also think about that on like a range, right? That um, there could be complete numbness on one end, right? Just sort of being in the world and feeling really dissociated from your body, or feeling a sense of numbness, right? Like you're sort of there, but can't quite connect with what's happening emotionally. All right, I'm talking about emotional numbness, not necessarily physical numbness. Um, all the way to a sense of not feeling fully present in your body, or able to like slow your mind down enough for you to actually be fully present in what's happening, right? So there might be anxiety, there might be easy distractibility, but there is a sense that you once had what felt like a normative level of desire, arousal, pleasurable sexual experiences for yourself. And now that is no longer the case. So, one, in normalizing that, I want us to again remember that our sexuality, our our lives as sexual beings, changes over the course of our life, right? And so that means that there could be physiological changes, there could be hormonal changes, there could be psychological changes, there could be relational or interpersonal changes, there could be just overall contextual changes. Um, all of those things that could impact your sense of desire, your sense of erotic aliveness, your ability to connect with yourself as an erotic being. And I wanted to talk today about some ones that I think are particularly resonant right now for lots of us, and using myself as an example. So I'll start on the macro, and then we can kind of distill down to the micro level, right? The macro is, okay? The macro is, pick one, okay? The macro is uh, climate change and climate disasters. The macro is the federal government being systematically dismantled by an authoritarian regime. The macro is the economic stress and distress that the vast majority of us live in. The macro is a continued sense of isolation and disconnection. Can't even get the words out, from close, intimate relationships. The macro is burnout and distress, because the cost to just breathe air and be alive is so high, and the demands put on you in your workspaces are higher than are reasonable, quite honestly. But we must work to live. Um, all of the inundating negative news, violence, right? Seeing folks have their rights stripped away, wondering when that might come to you. there's just so much that is happening on a macro level. Um, Thinking about the ongoing genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, thinking about the ongoing genocide of African folks in the Congo and Sudan, thinking about um, the the global impact that this country is having on other countries, and maybe even feeling complicit in it, even though you're doing your best to survive day in and day out, right? Hearing about the tragedy and suffering of people on a regular basis, due to climate disasters, due to the impact of the federal government, due to poverty, due to whatever, pick a thing, right? So the macro of it all is intense enough, right? To experience a level of chronic stress, if not a level of chronic distress, depending on your position to any one of those things and how much they have specifically impacted you in your life, right? Or how much they may impact people that you love and care about. Okay. So even though some of that stuff that I'm talking about on the macro level may feel, excuse me, distant, right? It may feel like it's not actually right. You still get up in the morning and go to work. Your bills are still paid. Your lights are still coming on. You still have pockets of joy, even if it's not directly impacting your life. If you are a human being with a sense of compassion, just any minimal awareness that your humanity is linked to other folks' humanity, any sort of sense of sympathy, um, that stuff impacts you. Okay. It just does. We don't oftentimes feel it as tangibly. Sometimes we do, but oftentimes we don't. And so I think it is very easy for us to discount the immediate impact of the macro on us. One of the other things, I'm gonna fast forward and skip around and talk about on the micro level is, well, you're not physiologically okay. I was out of the state. So sorry. I went on vacation 2 weeks ago, and somewhere along the way, I got this allergy, upper respiratory flare up, and I've been fighting for my life ever since. I'm doing the homeopathic drops. I'm taking over the counter allergy medicine. I'm doing the nasal spray. I pop in mucin. I don't know what this is. So even right now, I got a little tickle in my throat. So that's more of like a temporary, right, experience when you're not feeling well. I think we can all relate to like not feeling particularly sexy when we're not feeling well. I'm not talking about those sort of moment to moment experiences of erotic disconnection. I'm talking about periods of time where it starts to become fuzzy for you. You can't really remember the last time you felt turned on, the last time you thought about sex or being sexy, the last time you desired to be touched erotically, right? That when I'm talking about erotic disconnection, I'm talking about it in that way. If you're here, drop me a comment to let me know if that distinction makes sense or if you have any questions about what I mean when I'm talking about the impact of the macro on you as a sexual being, on your sense of desire, right? So let us not disconnect or discount. Let me say it this way. Thank you. Let us not discount the impact of living in a context of consistent global upheaval. Everything feels unstable. There's no, one of the things that we most need as human beings is predictability. One of the things, at a minimum, that triggers the part of our brain that signals stress, threat, trauma, fear is novelty. That's it. Remember Sesame Street? One of these kids is doing their own thing. One of these kids does not belong. That very thing, the disruption in a pattern, the novelty, something different, something new, is enough to get our limbic system to just sit up, like a dog's ears just perking up. And so, at least here in these good United States of America, we've been in some form of constant upheaval for decade, 2 decades, 5 years if you hold a lot of privileged statuses, perhaps. there's been this constant sense of like, when's the bottom going to drop out? What's the bottom? When do we turn this around? Does things ever get better? What's next? Right? So that's the macro level. And then I want to talk specifically about women of my generation. And I want to talk about that from both sort of a sociological level as well as a physiological and hormonal level. So I am 51. Y'all, I had a birthday while I was gone. I'm 51. I am firmly Gen X. I'm past midlife. I love my child. I want to be here and I want to have a long, vivacious life, but I don't want to live to be 100. So I'm past middle age, right? First of all, trying to even reconcile that with this with this body and feeling like elderly, like what? It doesn't compute. That's a whole different conversation. But as a Gen Xer, thank you. As a Gen Xer, what that means is we're in a different phase of life, right? We are past early career. We are some of us like really at the end of mid career. Most of the sort of accomplishments that we set out to make, we're either on par with those or we are getting really, really close to hitting those targets. Thank you. Appreciate the birthday wishes. Um, we have if we have been married or had children, by and large, at this age, our children are adolescent, if not full grown. Um, and we're also at an age where our parents are aging significantly and or in my experience passed away. um, we know that the life expectancy for black folks, black Americans in this country is still significantly shorter than white folks, and that black women tend to live somewhat longer than black men. But I think I looked up recently and still the average lifespan for black folks in this country is somewhere between 74 and 78, right? I'm 51. That means I'm much closer to that clock punching out than I am to punching in, right? I don't plan on clocking out that early. I'm trying to take care of myself. However, it means that so many things that you experienced on, like, the uphill of that roller coaster ride, we don't have access to in the same way. And in the process of caring for others, in the process of um, professional achievement, in the process of hell, just living life, and in the process of caring for aging parents or caregivers, the amount of access that we have to ourselves that feels sort of frivolous, that feels disposable, right? Like disposable income that feels, as we would say in Louisiana, like land yap, right? A little bit extra. It does not feel that way. It feels like we're at a time where like all decisions are big decisions, and the things that we choose to invite into our life, and the ways that we spend time in our life are really, really critical decisions, right? I'm thinking about the recent passing of Malcolm Jamal Warner at age 54, and like how so many of us Gen Xers, especially Black Gen Xers, have been hit hard by this news. And a lot of that being about the relatability of our mortality, right? That feeling like we are at an age where we are more, excuse me, uh, it ain't time for play no more, for lack of a better word, right? Like there is an urgency to really live life in alignment. And while you might have that sort of drive and desire intellectually, if you've not been putting boundaries, supports in place to attend to your own body physiologically, one of the things that can drop off the first, especially for women, is our erotic desire, right? And I want to pair that with the other physiological change that a lot of people in my generation are experiencing, and that is perimenopause and menopause. Them bitches make me sick. I can't stand them. I don't understand even like what's the grand design. I've said before, should there be a heaven and a pearly gate? If there's an opportunity for me to have a conversation with the creator, when I get there, I'm going to ask first about why gray pubic hair? Like, why? That's so unnecessary. And then I'm going to ask about perimenopause, because why? Like, why prolong it? Like why the significant disruption to everything that you once knew to be true? So for those of you all who don't know, and there are many of us that are like informing and learning about this as we go, because nobody in our generation prior to us talked to us about this stuff. And because patriarchy is real in everything, gynecological health, women's reproductive health, women's hormonal health has been woefully understudied. The assumption that like what happens in masculine bodies, bodies assigned male at birth, is the same similar process as what happens with women is like not true. And so my folks in my generation, I feel like are really the first group of folks that are like, oh, we're really having these significant internal life altering experiences in our cognitive capacity and our emotional well-being and our physiological um, bodies and our experience of ourselves that like nobody prepared us for, right? um, and because of the hormonal changes that are so significant and drastic during perimenopause and menopause, many women do absolutely lose their erotic desire. And it's not because they don't want it, it's not because they didn't appreciate it, it's not that they weren't interested in it before, but hormonally, the ingredients needed to, I'm really aging myself and making myself real southern right now, but what you need to crank that car, it's not there. It's no gas in it. Like the estrogen, the progesterone, testosterone, baby, they have depleted, and we didn't go back to the gas station, right? That is a significant part of what's happening with me lately, and actually a lowering of my connection to myself as an erotic being was one of the first indicators for me that something hormonally was shifting for me. And I remember trying to talk to my gyno about it, and she asked me, are you still getting your period? And I was like, yeah. She was like, are you still getting it regularly? She was like, yeah. And she's like, well, then it's not hormonal. And I was like, I feel like maybe it's not that simple though. Like, because I'm acknowledging like some things are really happening for me, right? Um, and so again, rather than sitting in any sort of shame and blame, let's honor that there are some real barriers to you being to access yourself as an erotic being when the very biological ingredients are absent, right? We need those hormones in our bodies to be able to facilitate um, and promote the arousal response cycle, right? And so if that desire is missing and you are pulled with all these other responsibilities and there is this demand on your time, you can let it go by the wayside. Or even if it doesn't go by the wayside, you may be, like I said, unnecessarily blaming yourself for it or feeling like something is wrong or broken in you. And I'm here to tell you that it's not the case. That if you're experiencing a lower erotic connection or an absence of one, that's absolutely something you want to talk to your healthcare provider. Listen, my appointment is scheduled for mid-August. I want everything. I want a patch. I want cream. I want shot. I want all the things. I want all of my hormones back at peak levels. Okay. Um, the other thing that I've been experiencing, and that is also a more indirect impact on your experience of desirability, right? And oftentimes those two things go together. I'm talking about them separately, but there really is a play on both, right? Your internal sense of erotic desire, but also that is fueled by feeling desired, right? Feeling desirable, right? That feeling that you can put that thing on and that people are gonna turn heads or like, how you do? That you're gonna be able to get that, your sense of mastery that you can create, tap into that energy is is in reflexive relationship to your sense of desire and arousal, right? To be desirable, to experience yourself as desired, and to feel desire, right? They work together. And so I think another indirect impact of perimenopause or menopause can be physiological changes happening in the body that reduce your ability to feel like you could put that thing on, right? For me, my hair started thinning. Who asked it to do that? Who asked it to do, y'all? Do you see all this scalp? Do you see all this scalp? I never saw my scalp like this before. Again, subtle changes. I started noticing it earlier this year. Like, I feel like when I'm going to get my hair retied, I'm seeing more scalp afterwards than was normal. And then I asked that man that does my hair, I said, "Don't you think my hair is like thinning?" And he was like, "No, you still got a lot of hair on your head." And then my locks started thinning. And then they started coming out. And then I went to him 3, 4 weeks ago and I was like, "You still gonna tell me my hair not thinning?" He was like, hormones, menopause got me out here looking like a bald head chicken, and I don't like it. Like, I told my friends and family, me going bald was not on my bingo card. Like, of all the things that I thought I might have to worry about in this life with this body, this hair was never, the hair is always haired. And now it's betraying me, right? So I'm more self-conscious about it, right? There's this apron belly that I have. It ain't going nowhere. Like, I had a bit of a crash out last week, and my best friend wasn't available, so I was like, I'm just gonna talk it out by myself. I went to run an errand, and I tried to call her, she didn't answer, and so I was like, I'm just gonna record this because I got to get this out of my system. And I'm driving and having the crash out and crying. I was like, and I'm eating the right things, and I'm taking all the supplements, and I eat my vegetables and fruit, and I don't eat processed food, and I'm still fat. What's the fucking point, right? Part of that crash out was menopause. Okay, let's just name that. The other part was chronic stress, and exacerbated by my own personal distress. Right, all of that in full truth. Even though I make it entertaining and funny, and I have the blessed ability to laugh at myself, I am grateful for that characteristic above many others that I have. My ability to laugh at myself, but seriously, like, your body changes. If you had children, you know there are things that just don't go back the way they were before, right? And so as we age, being intentional about continuing to find yourself beautiful, continuing to find your body in whatever state it's in as desirable, continuing to love your body for existing, for getting you up, for moving you through life, for having health, for being robust, for when it's out of whack, signaling to you that something is wrong, right? So rather than, again, shaming and blaming or feeling defeated, all of these things I'm sharing with you around these indicators so that you can, again, be grateful to your body for signaling to you that something is changing. And if it's changing in a way that doesn't align with what you want for yourself, and I hope you want pleasure for yourself, I hope you want a fulfilling, expansive, joyful sex life your entire life, regardless of whether, you could still do them tricks and flips the way you could at 17 or 25 or 32, at 54 or 51. You might not. Maybe you got to stretch a little bit more. Maybe you got to do a little hot yoga before you could do it. Regardless of how you do it, I want you to feel empowered to have access to it on your own terms. And when we're talking about erotic disconnection, these are all of these sort of external factors or, excuse me, changes that can happen to our body that disconnect us from our ability to feel as empowered about that as we can be, right? So I've talked about stuff at the macro level and chronic stress and perimenopause or hormonal changes, physiological changes as well. I also want to talk about the experience of trauma, and that at this age, it is highly unlikely that you have lived a life and not experienced any trauma. If you have, I mean, bless you, honey. Like, but if you've lived anywhere past the age of 20, um, you've probably experienced at least a trauma in life, right? Something, especially as you get older, life than life, right? Life has put you on your ass, in a real serious way. And oftentimes what can happen is, and I see this in my clients a lot, we move forward, right? We don't necessarily look like we've stayed stuck. In some ways, we might even look like we have recovered and that our lives are on the outside looking successful. But unless and until you fully metabolize, process, have a really nuanced working understanding of that trauma and how it impacted you, it's still living in your body. It's still in your psyche. And oftentimes, erotic disconnection and erotic numbness can be a result of unresolved trauma. There is lots of research that shows that that erotic, I'm saying erotic, I'm sorry, um, emotional numbness, like big picture, right? Like I just don't feel anything. Like I know this stuff is happening to me. I see the world is on fire. Emotional numbness is essentially that dog meme, the dog that's sitting in the kitchen with the cup of coffee in the hat and the house is on fire and he's like, this is fine. That's emotional numbness, right? Many of us experience that, are experiencing it, have experienced it, and not thought that it was a bad thing or not thought that it was something that we could do anything about. And so I want to sort of talk to you on two levels. One, I want to acknowledge that when we use emotional numbing like that it is in fact very much a protective factor. It is our brain's way of trying to keep us safe. You have to remember, we create this illusion we call life. This experience that we're having, this 3D reality, is all our imagination and made up. Our bodies don't care about the details. They don't care about the color or the nuance. It cares about, are we alive or dead? And my goal is to keep us alive until such time as we die. And even towards the end, the body doesn't just say, I'm good. The body doesn't go gently until that good night. The body fights until the end. If you've had the experience of being around someone who's at the end of their life, you probably experiencing increased anxiety and agitation. That oftentimes, even when folks are bedridden, they like there's this need to like get up and move. That is because our systems are designed to keep going. And so, even though we may keep going, and the body will do whatever it takes to do that, especially psychologically, it will protect us. What I'm telling you is you can't stay in emotional numbness forever. That at the time, it very well served a purpose for you, and we can honor and celebrate that. But we can't let the prolonged experience of emotional numbness become our new reality. And one of the reasons why I talk so much about pleasure and erotic desire and connection is because I think it's because for me, if we can figure out the most extreme reason to take care of ourselves, to take care of our mental health, to take care of our relational health, then it makes it easier to deal with the less extreme, right? And so I think that the way that we have our society structured, it is so easy to be dismissive of sex and pleasure and eroticism. It's so easy to see those things as like bonus or extra or something that you get or that's only appropriate, right? Like we can easily sort of put it in this little container and judge it in a way that we don't do that with other things. And so, what I believe is if I could get you to be as fiercely protective and fight for your access to your erotic being, then I think it is that much easier to get you to be protective of your overall emotional well being, your overall mental well being, in order to have better relationships and engage with people in your life that matter in a meaningful way, to think about your contribution to the world as one that is beneficial to you, but also the others in your life and in your family and in your community. That's the way I think about it. And also, as a reminder, sex is fun and it feels good. And why not? Because if the house is going to be on fire, can we go out with a bang though? Like, like, can I feel good while the house is on fire? I think the answer is yes, right? So, emotional numbness, I think there's a lot of people in the world who experience or are currently experiencing emotional numbness and might not even know it. Like, you might actually just be living in day to day and not even know it, right? So, when I'm talking about erotic disconnection, I'm talking about like not knowing the last time you felt touched, the last time you felt good when you were touched, The last time you desired to be you desired to be erotically connected to a partner. The last time you felt like you wanted to erotically engage with yourself. The last time you felt sort of turned on, right? If you have experienced or experiencing touch avoidance or feeling touched out all the time, if you find that sort of your brain is short circuiting when it's time to have more intimate conversations, or when things slow down and get quiet, you start to feel uncomfortable or anxious. These could all be signs that you're experiencing emotional numbness, experiencing erotic disconnection for yourself. Okay. As a reminder, though, I want to also make sure that I distinguish emotional numbing and disconnection from specific trauma responses, right? And so those are fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And so numbing is not the same thing as freeze. Um, Erotic disconnection isn't the same thing as freeze. In fact, freeze is sort of like a hyper arousal, but you're just stuck. It's like everything else is on 10. This you know, like everything sounds like more sharp, and you can see things, but you actually can't move your body. That's not what I'm talking about, right? That can be happening in the context of this other stuff, right? But I'm talking about this overall global sense of disconnect for yourself, right? Let me know in the comments if that's making sense, if you're tracking. Let me know if you have any questions. Um, and so obviously being numb is not conducive to pleasure or sexual arousal, right? You don't go from numb to being turned on. You go from numb to being fully present, consciously aware in your body. To, I'm sorry, you go from numb to feeling safe, feeling like you have the ability, the power, the confidence, the competence to create safety in your body so that you can feel fully present and aware in your body. And then you can consider the experience of pleasure or arousal, sexual connection, erotic engagement, right? So we're not going to go from 0 to 100. And so here's where the experience of you being self compassionate and gentle and really curious with yourself comes into place. Okay. So if you are experiencing erotic disconnection based on any of the things that I've talked about so far, um, and I forgot the other one that I really want to talk about because it is another that's impacting me. I talked around it, and that is the experience of grief. Sometimes during grief, people can experience a bit of hypersexuality, that they may experience the need to be physiologically connected or using like that, the sort of same sort of energetic experience of being aroused as a way to like affirm their own mortality and their own well-being. However, I find that oftentimes people experience that emotional blunting, that disconnection. And so if you have been experiencing any personal grief and losses through the death, or even significant losses, loss of um, uh, loss of a job, loss of a relationship or marriage, or significant change in your social economic status, right? So not just the loss of, of life or relationship in the form of another person in your life, but significant loss, right? That can most definitely create erotic disconnection for yourself, right? So I hope the thing that you're hearing across these different examples that I'm giving is that there is no reason for you to think that you are broken. There's no reason for you to think that you are the problem or that it is a problem. I really wanted to remind you of where I started and the hook is saying that, or at the top of the show, in saying that if you're feeling a sense of erotic disconnection, then that is not the indication that there's something wrong. There's an indication that there's a signal for you to pay attention to, right? And to not be dismissive of that information and be curious about what your body is trying to tell you and how you can re-engage in a way that feels more aligned with where you are in your life, with the body that you're in now, with the experience that you're living now. It might not look like it did before. Somebody sent me an opinion piece on News One website today, um, and it was about Malcolm Jamal Warner's passing and why it's had such a profound impact on Gen Xers and Black Gen Xers. And there was a screenshot. I wish my phone was here and not across the room, but I took a screenshot because it said beautifully about grief and our ability to fully grieve, such that we take the best parts of who that person was to us, what they represented, and we fully integrate that into our lives, recognizing that we are moving into a new normal for ourselves. I'm significantly paraphrasing. So I'm saying all of that to say the way that you come to your experience of yourself as an erotic being after grief may not be the same at all as it was before. The way that you come to your sense of erotic connection as erotic being after trauma may not at all resemble what it looked like before. The way that you experience yourself as an erotic being after going through perimenopause or menopause might not look at all like it did before. And that's okay. What I want you to be unrelenting about and unapologetic about is reclaiming or integrating and being curious about what this new version of your erotic self looks like. Okay? Okay, questions, comments, concerns. So let's get into this week's pleasure practice.
Yeah. Let yourself unfold.
This week's pleasure practice is similar to one that I've given before, but it's slightly different. And it's going back to this sense of safety. I think that we can very much discount the signals that our body sends when we are not feeling safe, when we are not feeling fully seated in our bodies and fully grounded. Because oftentimes because the place where those signals come from is from our limbic system, which is the part of our brain that is unconscious, subconscious. It's like outside of our conscious awareness. And oftentimes it's very quick. It happens like this, and it signals not in cognitive words or thoughts, but in impressions, in like gut reactions. And oftentimes we can be in the routine, in the flow of doing something, of following through on the habit, or just like being emotionally blunted and just going through the motion. And our body is sending signals that we're not okay, right? Or that we need to pause, or that we need to slow down. And if you're emotionally numbed or blunted at all, you are not connecting with what's happening in the moment for yourself at all. So rather than just focusing on your sort of erotic senses, or your sense of erotic um, arousal or connection, what I want you to do is engage your body for safety. And so I want you to use mindfulness practices, right? So that means we're going to use all five senses. And over the course of the next week, you don't have to do it all in one day or not. The goal is to be curious and non evaluative, meaning not judgmental. Turn that inner critic, shut her down, zip it. Now is not the time for you. We're curious, we're not interrogating, right? We're investigating, we're not prosecuting. Do you understand the difference? Okay, we're going to be curious, we're going to ask questions. We're going to go, that's unique or different. I wonder what that means, rather than saying, see, I hate this. This doesn't feel good. Let me stop. This is wrong. This is stupid. I should be able to see the difference. Okay. Curiosity, self compassion. But we're checking for safety. So, over the course of this next week, I want you to check in with your senses and how safe you feel in your body and experiencing fully each of those senses. Okay. So, when you are feeling disconnected, dissociated, overwhelmed, I want you to first use your sight, because our ability to ground ourselves visually is one of our most acute senses that we have. It's part of the reason why brain spotting works, is because our eyes are actually the last part of our The sort of orbital lobe. I'm getting super nerdy right now, but the orbital lobe is the last piece of our brains to actually form. So actually, your eyes are like protrusions of your brain. Isn't that super cool? So when you notice, like, I really don't know what I'm feeling. Like, I'm here, things are happening, but I don't know where I am. I couldn't tell you if I feel good, bad, indifferent. I don't know, right? If you're feeling emotionally blunted or you're feeling the opposite, emotionally overwhelmed, like when I was crashing out a couple weeks ago, one of the first things I want you to do is use your sight to help ground you and connect you to a sense of safety. What I want you to do is scan the room, like just really let your eyes just sort of wander on their own, not to give them any real intention about to look in a specific place, but see if you can land on anything in your visual field that feels pleasant, even if it's mildly pleasant. If it sparks some sort of something in you, some curiosity, if something about it catches your attention. And I want you to really use that as a way to assess your sense of safety, right? How much do you actually feel good and safe in your body to create your own sense of safety, right? And we're going to do that with sight. We're going to do that with sound. We're going to do that with smell, touch, and taste. Okay. Touch is going to be the last thing. I want you to work up to erotic touch over the course of the week. But I want you to start with visual. Can you slow down enough to acknowledge what things in your day in and day out visual field actually bring you a sense of calm, safety, and groundedness in your environment? And how much can you really get curious about how you know that? What is happening in your body fully physiologically? What is being sparked for you that says, oh, this feels good, this feels safe, I like this. We don't have to overthink it. We don't have to know why. I don't have to be connected to some childhood dream. It doesn't have to be anything. It just is. But I want you to get more conversant with the feeling and know that you can recreate that for yourself, right? Sound. Are there certain sounds or rhythms, cadences, tones that help you feel more grounded or present, that feel good, that turn you on? In fact, there's some lo-fi beats, that there's some erotic lo-fi beats, there's some erotic binaural beats that are available on Spotify. You could play around with that. Get curious in your body about what are the sounds that demonstrate safety, that lead to erotic arousal, that lead to erotic connection for you. Smell. Are there certain scents that smell good? Um, we like the smell of different things. Some things smell great to some people and they stink to others. Quite honestly, are there things that are soothing for your body? Are there things that actually turn you on if you smell them? What is that? How do you know that, right? I want you to spend time this week intentionally engaging each of your senses in a way that makes you feel good. And so the question is, what if it's nothing? Can you clarify for me if it's nothing? What Just be a little bit more specific? Like, isn't if it's is the nothing you're referring to nothing in your visual field, like a blank space? Or is the nothing you're referring to like still not feeling anything? Clarify that for me. I'll go ahead and try to answer both. So if you're looking in your visual field, okay, yes, oh yes. I plan to do. Thank you for sharing that. The comment is about ADHD making processing what I'm saying take a little bit longer for it to connect. And I also think there's like a bit of a lag between what I'm saying and when the comments come through too. So we'll factor that in. I definitely want to do at least 1 to 25 episodes on neurodivergence and arousal and sexuality, specifically around ADHD, because that's a whole other thing. So yes, be gentle with yourself, and thank you for asking the question. So in terms of the visual field, if it's nothing that you're looking at, so I want to encourage you to slow down. And if you know that your brain processes things, you can close your eyes, because you, even with your eyes closed, you can still process in your visual field. It's that even when I'm doing brain spotting with clients, sometimes while they're spotting, their eyes will close and their brain is still processing. So let me know, Knock Dreams, if that was the actual question. So if you are trying to look in your visual field and find that thing that helps you feel grounded, or present, that feels slightly neutral and you can't find it, I want you to focus on just slowing down, and you can actually close your eyes and reset. And you can do that a couple times and see if it, like, we don't need to prolong it, but you might need to try that process a couple different times for brief periods for your brain body connection to start to get together. If it's that you still don't feel anything, then I want you to do more scanning of your visual field. So then go even slower and see if you can find a little bit of freedom in just letting your eyes do what they want to do. Because if you can sort of let go of this um, executive functioning processing, if you can sort of let go around the sort of hyper arousal that can come up here for us ADHD brains, I know that's hard, but the more that you can, just breathe into it and trust that the limbic system also can function, and just let your eyes wander. Your brain might actually find the gaze it wants for itself. Slowing down, yes. Oh, I love it. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. And for those ADHD folks for whom the slowing down, listen, you can fidget, tap, do your wiggle worm thing. You can do that as long as you let your eyes do the thing, right? So you don't have to do one or the other. The way we access our sense of calm, for us ADHD folks, is not the same as other people. So I'm not asking you to become neurotypical. I'm saying you can do this thing to bring you safety, in a way that feels good for you. Okay. Thank you so much. I have gone over time. Y'all, this was supposed to be a 30-minute show. Every week I say I was supposed to be 30 minutes. So you have your homework, right? You have your pleasure practice for the week. I have enjoyed spending this time with you. Before we wind down today, I want to invite you um, to check out my new Voxer coaching group. I have created this space called the Pleasure Sanctuary. Um, as I, I'm at a place in my life where I'm really, really sick and tired of social media writ large. I don't consider YouTube like social media, but like the sort of very superficial algorithm driven, dopamine, dysregulating, uh, whatever this is, chaos that is social media is really like draining me. And so what I'm trying to do is create a digital space that feels protective and feels safe for like-minded Black women who are really genuinely interested in reconnecting with their softness and reconnecting with their erotic selves. And so I've created this Voxer group. It's called the Pleasure Sanctuary. I have a Google form for you to fill out and let me know if you're interested in it. And then if you go there and you meet criteria, you must be a Black woman. You must be a Black woman that is willing to adhere to the ground rules for the space or the agreements for the space. Then I'll add you to the group. And in it, every week you get either journal prompts or messages from me, information about services that I have, things that I'm thinking about, any tips, resources, and tools. I'm sharing that in that space as a way to connect with folks and really offer what I have in a more meaningful but calmer, slower, more real grounded space. And so there is the Google form for the link for the Google form. It'll also be in the show notes. Um, and I think that's it for today. It has been a great welcome back for me. I am so happy to be back. If you didn't catch the whole broadcast, it'll be up live on Friday at noon. I'm sorry, it'll be the post will be up live on Friday starting at noon. And as always, y'all, please be a friend and tell a friend. Please like, comment, subscribe, the things. I love doing this. I want to continue to be able to do this. And so if you would share the content here, the impact that it has for you, and get other people to subscribe, like, and comment and share, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you all next week.